Yo, yo, yo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Lenko Show, where we talk all things health and performance. We're back again with another episode today. It's myself, your host, Alex Lenkowski, and my brother, Chris. What's up, Chris? How you doing, bro?
Hello, everyone. I'm good. Happy to be here again. We are flying now.
Long
Second
time.
one in a few days.
I was going to say, ironically, long time no speak, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 we're all in. I like your mustache, by the way. You've grown that rather well over the last couple of days.
I've groomed it nicely. It took me 28 years to grow my first piece of facial hair.
Well, it suits you. It suits you down to a T. I think you need to keep it up. Anyway, today's subject, we're going down the mental road. And this is based on a conversation I was having with one of my former coaches, very good coach. I respect him very, very high. I hold him in very high regard. And he's very well respected around sort of like the American football scene in the UK. And a proper nice guy as well. Led and managed, coached for years in loads of programs, won national championships, and is just an absolute legend. And we were talking simply about why do some people try harder than others? And he kind of boiled it down to, in any team, you're going to get three kind of groups of people. You're going to get the people at the very top that will push as hard as possible, try as hard as possible, drag the team through the mud and do anything they have to do to improve, get better, and to win. Then you'll have the middle section of people that are happy to go along with it and will just kind of follow the lead and take part. And then you've got the other section that will just kind of not really put any effort in whatsoever, but still be in that team environment. So, and that kind of got me wondering, like, because it's not just at the base level of amateur sport, it's the same in semi-professional sport and it's the same in professional sport. You still have those three levels of people that the effort levels are different. But why? Why is that, Chris? Why do you think some people try harder than others?
You know what? I do think it's actually, the way that you phrased there is actually really intriguing, because if it was just at the base level or in everyday stuff, like just everyday things going about your house and things like that, then it does kind of make sense that you have different people that have different amounts of effort that are willing to put in, etc. When you break it down like that and you see that it is even still right at the top end of sport and things like that, it kind of balances out the same. I think so. Obviously, we are going to go into this and go through what we think. But the big one for me, I think, with the certain things that, well, actually, there's two things here. I think there are people who try very, very hard with a thing, will often try very, very hard with most things that they do. And it comes down to who they are as an individual. And then the flip side of that is often you'll get a lot of people who don't necessarily try very hard in certain things. And it's usually, if they don't try hard in certain things, they probably don't try hard in everything else as well. And for me, personally, the way that I see it, for me, not for everyone else, but for me, is it comes down to personal expectations of self and personal standards. That's the way I see it for myself. And I think whenever I look at a specific skill or a specific sport or a specific, which I suppose is one of the same, any area of my life where I think, right, okay, if I become aware that my standards are quite low in it, I think, right, okay, this is quite embarrassing. I need to sort myself out. What about yourself? What do you have?
So I think personal responsibility is a huge factor. So I think one of the things I've got written down here is there are certain personality traits. So if you look at just the way that people are in general, because that's what you've touched on there. Like if you try hard in one thing, you're very likely that you're going to be competitive and you're going to try hard in many things. So your base level personality has a huge influence. So I think, you know, your general level of conscientiousness, if you're having to make sacrifices for a team and be willing to go the extra mile for not necessarily personal benefit, but for the benefit of other people, your own level of perseverance, determination, and ultimately your strong sense of responsibility and desire to excel and put in effort I think is a huge factor in terms of, and let's be honest, we've spoken to the ends of the earth previously on this podcast about the lack of people who will take responsibility for themselves, let alone take responsibility for themselves and other people in their team to drag them forwards and to win. So I think I agree with you on that front. Absolutely. I think something else that you touched on as well is like your actual personal skill level, your ability to succeed and apply yourself and achieve the outcome that you want. I think that's huge. Like if you don't believe that you're actually going to have any impact, then why would you try in the first place? I think for a lot of people, they probably need to frame their impact as not necessarily just to win every time, but to simply get better and improve so that they can win in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. But then I also think that sometimes on the opposite side of the coin, you find some people who don't have the skills required. Therefore, they absolutely dive all in and they are far more willing to go a lot further because they know they don't necessarily have the talent or the skill required. So they know that they need to be like physical output, etc. So it's an interesting one. You've got some people at one end of the spectrum who they have all the talent and all the skill and they don't necessarily need to work as hard. And then you've got the opposite end where they have like no talent, no skill, or very little, limited. And as a result, they work really, really hard. But then there's some people who, exactly like you just said, they don't necessarily have the talent. So they think, well, what's the fucking point? Where am I going to get with it?
Absolutely. I mean, so I don't know if you've seen the same kind of thing as I have with this, but you know, the people that lack any sort of ability at a particular sport, but they are the absolute tryhards and they put in 100%. For some reason, it always comes across as if they are the people that get the piss taken out of them relentlessly. And they're the ones that are actually putting in probably the most effort. And just because the crap, they're still getting ribbed for it. And I think they probably get ribbed for it because they are so bad, but they try so hard. And I don't really like that. I hate that, actually. And I don't understand it. I think for me, nothing impresses me more than someone who is willing to sacrifice and put in a shitload of effort to improve themselves, improve their situation, or to have a successful outcome. I don't think anything impresses me more than someone putting in the effort to go and do that. That is the be all and end all. I was working with a guy in the gym last night, like 170 kilos. And, 2 weeks ago, he literally couldn't pedal on a bike for 2 minutes. But now he's in the gym 3 times a week, training consistently, and he's got a reason to do it. And for me, like normally they're the people that get laughed at, aren't they? And it's like, oh, imagine being that fat. I mean, like, no, like if you are that fat, get in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking respect to him. Fair play for that. And you know what, actually, that point that you've made there is exactly what me and you were talking about last week. We touched on, I think Andrew Huberman did a podcast about it. They showed research that literally shows that kids who were given talent-based praise / motivation actually performed worse afterwards, presumably because they realize that they're good and they don't necessarily need to do as much, whereas kids who received effort-based motivation and praise, those guys, their performance actually increased after the fact. So it just goes to show, I mean, if it's happening in kids, it's happening in adults. And realistically, you're absolutely right as well. Like people that like, especially in kids and teenagers and stuff, because you don't really know any better. You take the piss out of people that are trying really hard because it's like,
hand on heart, I genuinely, I've just kind of had like a bit of a, when you like reality hits you, I 100% think that's why I got the piss taken out of me so much when I was in school and college.
But weren't you? Well, you were really good. You've got physical skills,
no,
surely.
I was all right, but I started like it didn't matter because anything I ever did, I felt like I always got the piss taken out of me, no matter what. And whether it was lack of competence or just the fact that I was actually trying to apply myself, or maybe my ego was just a bit inflated and everyone thought it was funny. I don't know. I genuinely think that like that's the source of my bullying as a child growing up.
Do you think maybe it's because they were getting the emotional response that they were searching for?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think I always give people the reaction that they're looking for. I don't want to let people down. So if they want to wind me up and see me angry, they'll get me there. That's very easy. And I don't mind that. I like being in that position. I like being that guy. I like being that one that gets wound up and like on edge. I don't mind that. I like that. And then I think you touched on something else that I'd got written down here, which is like the external factors. You know, when it comes to giving praise for being talented versus praise for actually working hard. Those are external factors, and this is one for any coaches listening to this or any parents listening to this. But when it comes to actually putting in effort, the support that you receive as an athlete on the social side of things, the style of coaching, the team dynamics, the positive reinforcement from friends, from family, from teammates, and just having that supportive culture and environment where you actually gas each other up, juice each other up, and give each other credit and praise for not only just good skill execution, but actual effort execution. I think that is absolutely huge. That goes such a long way. And I know it's something, I think the Green Bay Packers do this, where they don't necessarily have like their greatest ever plays. I don't know where they put it. I think they have like a wall of pictures somewhere in Lombardi Stadium or somewhere around the locker room or the training facility of like big plays where someone on the team has done something, and it's not just for kind of skill execution, but it's just pure effort and heart and hustle. And I think there was one where there was a game where I think they had a kick blocked, and one of their linemen actually ran all the way back. I think it might have been against New England Patriots. Chased him all the way back to like the 1 yard line or the 2 yard line or something like that. Made the tackle. But anyway, that didn't end up making the wall because I think it was in a losing game or something like that. So, but just having that culture that appreciates effort and drive, that for me is an absolute game changer. Like that should be a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I think it's a huge driver. So we were talking about this actually at the facility that I'm sat in right now this morning. We're talking about if you breed a culture of people who are driven towards getting results and driven towards working hard, etc., and everyone's doing it, and then someone steps into the environment. If there's 9 people doing it and you're the 10th person that steps in, you'd feel like a dick. You'd feel like a dick if you just went in and you weren't doing that. So you'd get involved. You'd be far more likely to join in. And if you didn't join in, you'd probably be asked to leave, or you'd end up choosing to leave anyway because you're not fitting in. Like naturally, we are social animals and we want to fit in with like everything around us. So culture's absolutely fucking huge.
And I think when it comes down to culture, I want to kind of dial back into like, obviously you've got to select the right kind of people, but then when you get the right kind of people, you have to tap into their motivation, their drivers. And I think part of finding those right people is working out their motivation, whether it's intrinsic, extrinsic. If it's extrinsic and it's being fueled by just like, a decent paycheck. For instance, I know footballers get thrown this their way every single time. Every single time they don't seem to have a good game, or every time you just think, oh, they're not trying. You think, oh, I'd do anything for 100 grand a week. But if they're at the point where they're getting that amount of money and the money isn't a motivator anymore, it's irrelevant, because what are they going to do with more of it? It doesn't matter. They're not hungry for more money. Then the question is, well, if the well of motivation was that and that's dried up, where is it coming from? Like, where is that motivation coming from? And it's always going to be higher intrinsically, or in people that have got high intrinsic motivation, because they'll get personal fulfillment out of it. They'll take pride in their own performance. They'll take pride in their own records. And you look at arguably 2 of the greatest players that have ever walked the face of the earth, Ronaldo and Messi, like they were wanting to chase those accolades. They were wanting to do it for personal fulfillment, not just for a big paycheck.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those where someone actually, funnily enough, I've had a lot of these conversations recently. So a client actually said to me in a session last night, like she said, she just feels like people who've had a harder time are more willing to graft harder and put in more work, etc. And it's exactly that. It's like when they are searching for a very specific level of personal achievement. And if you've been, let's say, people I know probably can't necessarily see this, but imagine you've got a scale and it goes from like 0 to 100, but there's like negative numbers below and positive numbers above 100. If you start at 0 and you are going up, you're likely to go up towards 100. Whereas if you start at minus 100, the difference from going from minus 100 to 0 is the exact same as going from 0 to 100. So if you then climb to 100 from there, you're going to feel the exact same jubilation as if you've just gone from 0 to 100. And then you're going to get it again from the minus 100, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That was a strange example. But likewise, the alternative for that will be easier to see is if you had absolutely everything on the planet that you could have and you lost it all, you've got a much far further way to fall if you're losing all these different things and if you just lose like a couple of things or 3 or 4 things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think because we've done this before when we've talking about effective goal setting, and you need that contrast. You need the positive and the negative. So I think for the people that have been in shit situations or been through hard times, they've got a very real emotional response to being in the shit and to what it's like to lose and to what it's like to fail at something. And you can then use that as fuel and motivation to drive you forwards to win. Because if you've got an appreciation of what it is to win, what it means to you, your family, etc., then you're going to do what it takes to get there. And that's whether it's sport, training, business, life, etc., all of it, the same thing is applicable. You need to understand your overall outcome at the end of it. You need to understand the emotional response that is going to fuel that and excite you and drive you towards it. And then if you can back it up with the realistic nature of what it's like to fail and what it's like to absolutely suck, you've got the push-pull effect driving you forwards from your goals perspective. So you need to understand that. You need to have a look at like, what is your level of motivation? Where is it coming from? What's your driver? Why are you doing it? And then can you find the emotional attachment between those two things, the positive and the negative?
Yeah, which ties in perfectly with the next one that you've put on the list there, which is goals and values. I think for a lot of people, like you said, who are already in elite level sport, for some people, they have no interest in being the best player in the world or number one or winning the Champions League or whatever. Some people are driven by just getting there and just being a professional and living that lifestyle, etc. But then you've got certain people who maybe they've started from lower, maybe they've started from higher, it doesn't really matter. But their absolute goal and their vision in their head is, I will be number one. And they're trying to get to the very, very, very top, the top 1%, the top 0.01%. Those people are going to be far more likely to exert more. And it ties in with the Instagram story that you put on and I put on yesterday, which was Matt Fraser, who was the number one in the world. And he was saying that a coach said to him when he was at one of his training camps. So if anyone doesn't know, Matt Fraser had won the fittest on earth sort of CrossFit Games like 3 years in a row by this point, and he was with a coach who basically said to him, mate, you're not fucking special. You think that you're special because you come in here and you work really hard. Everyone says the same shit. Everyone wears the I work harder than anyone else t-shirts. Everyone's like proud of almost blacking out in workouts. Everyone does. Like, you're not fucking better than anyone else. You're not working harder than anyone else in that respect. It's what you're doing with your nutrition. It's what you're doing with your recovery. It's what you're doing when you're outside of the gym. And it's the top 0.1%ers. It's the Matt Frasers who are willing to take a look at that. What are they doing outside of the sport? What are they doing with their actual life? How can I make the decisions outside of the facility or outside of the training ground that will help push me further and drive me further towards success? Whereas some people just don't give a fuck. They're already there. They think they're the shit. They're satisfied by where they're at. They've got comfortable and that's fine, but they're not the people that are going to be trying the hardest week in, week out.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I want to ask you as well is, how does it make you feel when you see someone not try?
Oh, it offends. Do you know what? It's a combination of like, it does offend me, and I see it as, obviously we all relate things to ourselves. I see it as like, fuck me. Like, if they're in that position, you'd think you have got a gift and you're in a very good position to actually go and achieve like great things or do things for your club, do things for your team, do things for your sport, whatever. And you don't really give a shit. You don't even understand. It's almost like a lack of gratitude. But then there's part of me as well that's like, I feel sad for you, like genuinely, like almost a little bit of compassion, a bit of sadness. It's like, why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Yeah. Like I think I've always been confused by it, and I've always been in the mood where I recognize it quite quickly, and I never like it. I always say to like I've gone off the chain at people in a warm up before a game. I've done it in training sessions where I've stopped the entire warm up and I've just roasted everyone. I've just said, if you think you're going to go and achieve anything this year like this, you are dead wrong. Like, you've won 2 games so far, 2 fucking games. And yeah, it's all right. You're all laughing and joking now, but what's going to happen when it gets difficult? How many people are going to be laughing and joking there? We had a similar situation at the weekend where, for American football, the Manchester Titans, our sideline is all about juice. It's all about energy. It's all about excitement, gassing each other up, celebrating every play, and making sure we're doing everything we can to keep moving forward. And anyway, at the weekend, for the first time this season, I think it was the first time this season, we were actually behind in a game. And like, we've been pretty much sweeping everyone. We were behind in a game. We were 6-0 down to 2 field goals. And everyone on the sideline went quiet. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you all? Like, as if you expected we weren't going to be in a situation like this, as if you had the arrogance and the fucking balls to think that we were simply just going to turn up, walk around, and walk away with the win. And it was going to be easy and it was just going to be handed to you. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, as if you are that naive and that arrogant to think that this team was possibly going to come here and not lay a glove on you. Of course they were going to come and smack you in the mouth. Like, they fucking hate us. And it winds me up. And just for the general effort level to kind of go, oh no, back to the wall now. Ooh, what's going to happen? Like, as soon as you start doubting yourself, you're on a downward slope. Like, you got to get yourself out of that very, very quickly.
Yeah, and ironically, that's exactly the time that you need the fucking energy and the juice. That's literally where that really fucking digs you out of it.
And this actually ties in quite nicely with the level of perceived control. So perceived control is like the belief that you can influence the outcome. So for me, I always, for some reason, I don't know why, I don't understand why, but I always believe that I can influence the outcome. Like, if I'm watching a game on the TV, right, I believe I can influence the outcome. How weird is that? Like, if like, you know, when you get all superstitious about stuff and you think, oh, fucking hell, I went and made a drink and we scored. I'm going to drink this and I'm going to get another one. Like, for some reason, I buy into that. Like, watching the Ashes over the summer and Stuart Broad's bowling, I'll be watching him bowl. I'll walk out of the room. I'll come back and I'll go, oh, we took a wicket. And then I'll do it again. And I'll just keep trying that. I'll keep doing weird little shit like that. But for some reason, I don't know. And I don't know why this happens. But I believe I can influence the outcome of everything. How fucking arrogant is that?
I was going to say, it sounds like an ego thing for sure. But hey, listen, if you've got belief in your skills, then fucking hell, why not?
Yeah. So, but in a non-arrogant, non-gassy way, perceived control is a huge thing, because if you're on the pitch, if you feel like you can actually have an influence, then you are likely to try. If you're on the bench, then you'll be like, oh, well, what's the point? Like, I can't do anything. I can't influence it. And that's not necessarily true. Sideline American football, you can juice your teammates up, you can big them up. And just being positive about the whole situation, whether you're on the bench in a normal football game, if you're still supporting your teammates and you're showing that positive mentality, that positive attitude, it will rub off. And this comes into, where did I write this down? Say something, Chris. I need to find what I've written down.
So just to follow up from your point there, and the way that I see something like that is it's personal accountability. It's like, if a situation's going on, let's say, for example, you're sat on the bench and you're losing 6-0, and you just fucking sit there with your arms crossed, feeling shit about yourself. Have you done anything at all to influence the result? Yeah, you did fuck all, and that kept the result 6-0 down. Whereas if you actually do something about it, exactly like you said, go around juicing up your teammates, fucking spreading a bit of positive attitude, fucking getting everyone amped up again to go out there and fucking fight and die, then you're doing something that's influencing the other people, which is influencing the result in a positive manner, which is always more useful than doing it in a fucking negative manner. Always. And then, but on the flip side of that, sometimes you'll get those people where you try doing that and like, fuck off, leave me alone, I'm in a bad mood for losing. They want to sit there and just reside in their like misery and self-loathing and acceptance of the fact that they're losing, they're maybe not as good as they thought they were, or they're getting something they didn't deserve, or whatever victimhood they're currently sat in.
Yeah, so stop being a self-loathing, miserable dickhead and get on with it. Juice your teammates up. No, this comes back down to, so I was thinking, when it comes to that attitude and the mentality and just gassing your teammates up, that it comes down to that social support and the external factors that I mentioned earlier. So I remember seeing there was a study done on the Icelandic football team back when they beat England in the Euros and they were having a really good tournament, and they compared positive actions, whether it was verbal, physical, and general like gestures and communication, positive communication versus negative or neutral communication, and they compared it through different teams, and Iceland were like top of the charts by such a long way, and that was put down as to why they were overperforming. And I think whenever it comes down to that tight-knit team environment, the more positive interactions that each team member has with each individual within the team, whether it's like, you know, motivational, like, yeah, come on, let's go, let's get it, or just like a simple fist bump, for me, that has a huge impact on the team and a huge impact on the outcome. And I think even if you're not physically involved in a particular play, or if you're not on the pitch at that particular time, that kind of action still rubs off. It still has an influence. Like G'ing your teammates up still has a huge, huge role to play. So never ever neglect that. And same thing for a coach as well. Like make sure your actions, your language, your mentality, everything should be positive. But like not everything. Like you still need that other end of the sword, but certainly the vast majority of your gestures and the way that you deal with your players should be positive. It's move us forward. Let's go. This is what we do. And what we were saying about the perceived control, that rolls through into expectancy value theory, which is the expectation of success and the belief that you can win. So yeah, you can believe that you can control or influence a moment, but if you don't think that it's going to have a great impact on the overall outcome or the expectation of success, again, general effort level, general demeanor is probably going to be pretty low. It's like if you're getting pumped 17-0, but you've got a penalty or a field goal, or you know you've got a chance to score, your overall enthusiasm in that moment is probably going to be a little bit lower than regular. So if you believe you're going to win, if you believe you're going to win, and you believe you can influence it, that's again even better.
I think it's easy when you look at it as an easy question like this, make it black and white. If let's just use football as an example, like you've got 11 players on each team. If I said to you, you can either have the team of 11 players who all believe in themselves and believe that they can have an impact on the score, and they believe they can score a winning goal, or you can have the alternative, which is 11 players who don't really think they can influence it that much. They don't really believe in themselves, and they don't really think that they can make an impact on the game. Which team would you pick? It's fucking obvious. Like there's not even a second thought about it.
Yeah. You need to go into it believing you're going to win. And this ties into the emotions and mood point I wanted to make as well. So again, positive emotions, enthusiasm, determination, excitement versus the negative emotions of anxiety, fear, lack of interest, a little bit of like doubt. Like those two playing off against each other, you've got to be on the positive aspect. And again, that comes through the external factors, your internal self-belief, and you've got to roll with that. You need a positive. A winning team is always going to be is always going to be a positive team. In the long term, a long-term winning team will always be a positive environment.
Agreed. You're winning. You be positive.
And then the last couple that I'd got written down I think you can break this one down a little bit, but psychological factors, your general energy levels, your overall level of fitness, how well rested you are, how much you've slept, how well you've eaten, how generally energized you are, and healthy you are. Like if you're actually fit and you're not injured, obviously that's going to equal more effort, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think physiology, I always think of like your physiology as being very similar to, it will influence, like, you know, when people talk about like non-verbal cues and like you were saying on the previous point about body language and affecting the rest of the team and stuff like that. If you are physiologically prepared and in state, you're healthy, you're fucking high energy, fit, that's going to have an indirect effect on everyone else around you in the form of affecting the culture, like we already spoke about in one of the first points, because you have set your personal standards that high. Either other people rise to it or other people fall below it. But if you get more people that hit that standard, you've just created a culture of this is the bare minimum that we expect. And if your personal standards and your club culture standards are higher than another team's, there's only one team that's going to win, more often than not.
Yeah, that's it. I think for a winning team, and this is something that the New Zealand All Blacks do so well, like you have to have a winning culture. Like you can put any 11 players you want on the pitch, can be the most talented in the world, but if you haven't got a winning culture and a high quality team ethos, that you can forget it. You're going to be absolutely fucked. You're going to be shit to watch, and you're going to underperform like Man United year in, year out. Is that fair?
Yeah, so I was actually literally in my head, I was thinking, so I don't follow football that much anymore, but I was thinking this is one of the reasons why you see like people like Gary Neville and Roy Keane getting really, really fucking pissed off, because like, no, Man United shouldn't be in the top 5 or the top 3 or anything like that. They should be fucking winning. This is what we would do. This is what they believed their culture was. And then I was going to say something else in terms of like your physiology. If you are healthy and well rested, it affects the other factors in terms of like you will have higher self-belief and stuff. If you were going into a game knowing that, like, you know, your left knee's let's say you as a kicker, let's say your left knee's been slightly off and your left ankle has been not feeling great when you plant your left foot. I assume you kick with your right, don't you? Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So let's say you know that when you plant your left foot, your ankle's not going to feel very strong, very stable, and your left knee's not feeling very good either. You're not going to have the same, well, you're a special person, so maybe you would still have the belief, but most people would not have the same level of belief in their capacity to do the job that needs to be done. So like we should probably do a podcast about this, but when you scored your game-winning field goal, should I add, at the international level the other week, and it was like the last kick of the game?
Yeah, so it was basically France scored a touchdown, missed their kick, and then we scored a touchdown. We had a kick to win it, and that was the situation.
Okay, so a lot of people, if they had a bad knee, bad ankle, they were drawing, they were a little bit scared, a little bit intimidated, it's going to massively impede their ability to cope and handle with the pressure of scoring that field goal. With you, I'm sure it wouldn't have bothered you, but with most people, that will massively, massively affect them, and therefore they fucking miss, or they flip, or they kick it the wrong way, or skew the kick, or whatever.
Yeah, even if I'd have torn my groin, I would have still said, like, there's no chance anyone's going out there to do that job instead of me. No chance.
Do you know what I would have loved to have seen?
Go on.
If you just decided, I don't even know if you can do this, but if you just decided, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to pick it up. So it's not about catch it. You just pick it up and then just fucking run it.
Yeah, I didn't need to, though. I didn't need to. And I'd probably get caught. I'd probably get caught. They're pretty quick. They had a pretty good rush. I mean, we barely got the kickoff in time. So, yeah, we had to be quick on that. I think this kind of wraps up quite nicely, because this leads into my next question, which is going to have to be a future episode. But the last factor is it's simply got to be down to competitiveness, and that will to win, the desire to win, that competitive drive that people have. Some people have, not everybody has. And I think I want to know why not everybody has that drive. Like, for some reason, when it's like being on the motorway or in traffic, like I always want to be at the front. If I'm walking in a group, I always want to be at the front. and I don't think about it. I just naturally put myself there, or try and put myself there. Like, I don't know why that happens. So I want to understand that a little bit more. But I think certainly individual competitiveness is a huge role. So we want to break that down a little bit more. Is there anything that you'd add to that?
Do you know what? So it makes me think. So this competitiveness, yeah, it comes down to how serious you are willing to be about it and how seriously you're willing to take it. And actually, on the flip side of what you said earlier about making fun of, or you being made fun of, I think this was, so I wouldn't go as far as saying that I bullied anyone. No, definitely not knowingly, and I apologize if I did. But I think so I'm a very laid back person, generally speaking. And that's where I would make fun of someone for taking something like really, really serious. And I can tell you right now, there's been a few occasions where I've turned to five-a-side football on a Thursday night. Not recently, because I don't play anymore, but where it's like, fuck me, mate. This is not the Champions League final. You don't need to go around taking people's knees away from them. Jesus Christ. Fucking calm yourself down. But whilst neither of us are wrong, I'm not wrong, he's not wrong. Like, it wasn't the Champions League final. If he's willing to take someone's knee out to win the game, he's more competitive. He's more likely going to win. If I'm thinking, well, I don't want to get my knee taken out, then I'm not going to go as hard. I'm not going to try as hard to beat him.
Do you know what this has just got me thinking about? Do you remember when I came and played five-a-side with you a couple of times? And I was actually starting to get a little bit annoyed with you because you weren't like slamming into anyone. I was like, what's up with you, Chris? Go and put a foot in on him. Like, go and get your body in there. Like just check him into the boards or something. Like, go and whack him. Like, what are you doing? Just jogging down like little flicks and shit. Like, just go and smash the lad.
Yeah, I don't take five-a-side football serious, mate. I'm there for a laugh.
It riled me up. It really grated on me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Hey, listen, like I said earlier, like if I see someone who I know could be really, really good, or they could definitely be putting in more effort, then yeah, it fucking annoys me.
So what we'll do is we will wrap that episode up there. So we'll cap over those, I think, 10 things. We'll cap over those 10 things that we've got. And then
pain. And I will have.
What the fuck was going on there? I think your connection was going a bit wappy. Never mind. We are coming to the end. So we'll recap those 10 things. And then next time we're on the podcast, we'll dig into competitiveness a little bit more, find out what's fueling that. I imagine we'll touch on a few of the similar things, but we're going to try and add in a few of our own little scenarios and tidbits that we've done today. So number one, you've got your motivation, your intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is going to win out every time. So look for that, figure out your why. Tie that into your goals and your values, figure out the push and pull effect of your goals. How much is it going to suck if you fail and if you lose versus how awesome is it going to be when you win? Then you've got your self-efficacy, your overall skill level and ability. You need that to be as high as possible because that is going to have an impact on your perceived control, which is your belief that you can actually influence the outcome. Then we've got personality traits. So your actual level of conscientiousness, for your understanding for your teammates, your perseverance, your drive, determination, strong sense of personal responsibility and responsibility towards the team, and your overall desire to excel. That is all going to equal effort. Then that's going to back up your level of competitiveness, your general desire to win. Again, we'll investigate that. We'll dig into that a little bit deeper in the next episode. Number 7, we've got expectancy value theory. So this is your expectation of success. And then we tie that into the level of self-efficacy that you have and the perceived control, which is the belief that you can influence the outcome and that you are going to win. So the higher that those two things are, the more likely you are to put in more and more effort. Or if you're a coach, understand that if your team believes they can win and they've got the skill levels to back it up and they believe that they have the skill levels to back it up, you will see more and more effort from them. So you always need to give them the belief that they are going to win. And that's something I actually experienced quite a lot of in dog training. So I'll touch on that again in a future podcast, I'm sure. Then number 8, external factors. So the level of social support that the player receives, your coaching style, overall team dynamics, the culture we've spoken about in depth, your positive reinforcement from friends, teammates, family. generally just being in a supportive and encouraging environment, that is going to equal more effort. Like you hear about managers that have lost the dressing room. Don't be that guy. Then number 9, psychological factors, your overall, well, psychological and physiological factors, I suppose. Energy levels, fitness levels, health, how well rested you are, how well you've eaten, and generally looked after yourself. All those things are going to have an impact on the amount of effort you're able to put in, as well as simply just being injury-free. I suppose we mean that by being healthy in general. Then your last one, your overall, well, your level of emotional stability and your overall mood. So enthusiasm, determination, excitement, all the positive emotions you need to be able to perform well. Then you've got to balance that with your negative emotions, anxiety, fear, lack of interest, like all those things are going to have a negative impact on your performance. So those are our 10 major points when it comes to answering the question, why do some people try harder than others? Chris, do you feel like we've answered it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything we could. I think it's one of those where you could easily do a podcast on each individual point and make lots and lots of valid points. It's a combination of all of the above.
Lovely stuff. So that is it from me and Chris for another episode, for another week. We will be back again with another podcast, which I've already said we're going to do it on competitiveness. So make sure you listen out for that. Until then, you can reach us through the usual channels. Instagram probably going to be the best one. If you click any of the links in the show notes, they will take you to various programs we've got. You can sign up for the weekly email. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss us. Make sure you're getting us on a weekly basis if you want your regular dose of me and Chris. And until next time, keep smashing it. Have a great week and work hard. Don't slack. Don't get involved in your self-loathing, miserable mindset. Peace out.